Elon Musk has declared war on the Anti-Defamation League, threatening to sue them for defamation. And once he's through with them, everyone says that they will be dropping the ante and everyone will call them the Defamation League. Haha. Yeah, I know. I stole that joke from Twitter. But the ADL's mission is fairly, well, I want to say it's kind of obvious to anyone who pays attention to politics. On the surface, they say they're trying to stop hate speech and anti-Semitism. But in reality, what they do is purely political. And this is evidenced by statements made by the organization in the past and where they currently are. It seems that their mission more so aligns with the establishment narrative mission and less so with actually stopping hate speech or defending free speech. The ADL routinely smears and harasses people and organizations, forcing them to ban people that the ADL deems to be a problem. We've got an article from Politico that Elon Musk has highlighted. The ad boycott that has Facebook on the defensive. Hundreds of companies are boycotting the social media giant. Here's the backstory. And of course, everyone's blaming the ADL for this basically because, well, whether it's just on its own or part of a coalition of organizations that are engaging in this behavior, this is what activists do. They terrify advertisers. But you know what? It's not going to work anymore. Just take a look at Bud Light and Target. And in the inverse, take a look at Rich Men North of Richmond and take a look at Sound of Freedom. 4 examples that I can give you, 2 positive, 2 negative, showing that we will not back down, that we are standing up for what we believe in, and we are done being manipulated by lies in the media and by activist organizations. Shout out to our good friends over at Public Square that are helping build the parallel economy, but I'm sick of it. Look, I don't really care about what you choose to believe in your life, your religion, your political views. I will argue with you. I will disagree with you. But if you are a dishonest actor seeking to gain power by manipulating people and lying, we got a problem. Don't care what your reasoning is. But let's take a look. Elon Musk gave us a pretty intense breakdown. His accusation is that the ADL is contacting advertisers and has gotten them to drop Twitter, cutting them off from a substantial amount of revenue that could be around $22 billion. Oh boy. There's more. Elon Musk says that he will, we're assuming he's going to do it, release all communications with old Twitter and the ADL and they'll show us the communications and who the ADL was targeting. Now, this is a really big one, ladies and gentlemen. This is a big one because not only is Elon Musk going to go to war with the ADL and potentially have a tortious interference lawsuit himself, but anyone who is targeted by the ADL will likely have their own defamation and tortious interference claim. I'm not a lawyer. My general understanding of tortious interference would be like if I have a contract with, let's say, somebody makes sunglasses. We have an agreement. And then a third party goes to them and issues threats to get them to break that contract. That would be tortious interference. Something like that. Again, not a lawyer, but that's my general understanding. If someone's running a business and utilizes Twitter, especially now that there's monetization, but even before then, let's say you're on Twitter and you made memes. And then from those memes, you would sell T-shirts. You would say, like, look at this picture of Joe Biden, doing the robot. And then you would link underneath it, buy my T-shirt. That's your business. You have a business arrangement with Twitter. Twitter and you have a contract as to what you can and can't do and why. That's the terms of service. It's an agreement. The ADL then steps in and a bunch of other activist organizations, and they go to Twitter and say, ban that person and shut them down, interfering with the agreement you have with Twitter. Now, here's the problem. Often we have seen, and we know for a fact, that Twitter was banning people who did not break the rules. And they would always just say, whoopsie daisies. Oh, this is going to be interesting. Because if they just claimed it was an oopsie daisies, these communications should be rather enlightening. How much do you want to bet there's an email from the ADL to Twitter saying, ban person X, I shouldn't say that, ban so-and-so, ban this individual. And then all of a sudden, shortly after, Twitter accidentally banned them. Because here's what happens. Twitter gets scared that if they don't, they're going to lose ad revenue. So they just do it. This is the nature of modern politics, especially in the tech sector. Because I've talked to these CEOs. They've told me, look, man, either I ban the one person or everyone gets shut down. That's how they view it. You get a company let's say there's a big tech social media platform. A company goes to them and says, if you don't ban, John Doe, we will sever services to your platform affecting thousands, tens of thousands or more, or we'll pull advertising and then you can't maintain your servers and you go down. They say, okay, look, what do we do? Typically, the CEOs just say, it's one person who cares. We've got 330 million, however many users. Let's just ban the one person. Often, they're scared that if they go too far and ban too many people at once, it'll create a splash. So they do it, little bits at a time. This is how the game is played. Here's the story from Deadline. Twitter owner Elon Musk threatens a lawsuit against the ADL for unfounded accusations and blames them for lost revenue and valuation. We have this from NBC News. This one's a little bit funny, but basically the same thing. He's blaming the ADL for lost revenue. Here's Elon Musk tweeting, "To clear our platform's name on the matter of anti-Semitism, it looks like we have no choice but to file a defamation lawsuit against the Anti-Defamation League." Oh, the irony. Well, it's funny. It's probably why they call themselves. ALX responds, "Wouldn't be the first time the Defamation League would be found to have defamed people." Highlighting the story from 2000, judge fines ADL $10.5 million in Colorado defamation lawsuit, to which Elon says, interesting. In our case, they would potentially be on the hook for destroying half the value of the company, so roughly $22 billion. Ian Miles Chong says, Godspeed, and may the odds be ever in your favor. Elon Musk breaks it down. We have this. Dr. Know-It-All responded saying, "I've not seen anything related to this up until recently. Are they alone seriously responsible for destroying half the value of the company? I won't ask for details, lawyers and all, but I'm very interested to find out what the heck has been going on when the time comes." Elon says, "Based on what we've heard from advertisers, ADL seems to be responsible for most of our revenue loss. Giving them the maximum benefit of the doubt, I don't see any scenario where they're responsible for less than 10% of the value destruction, so around $4 billion. Document discovery of all communications between the ADL and advertisers will tell the full story." Tesla owner Silicon Valley responds, "Are advertisers willing to come back when you tell them the truth?" Elon says, "Advertisers avoid controversy. So all that is needed for ADL to crush our US and European ad revenue is to make unfounded accusations. They have much less power in Asia, so our ad revenue there is still strong. This controversy causes advertisers to pause, but that pause is permanent until ADL gives the green light, which they will not do without us agreeing to secretly suspend or shadow ban any account they don't like. That is the relationship they had with X and Twitter for many years. Presumably, they have that with all Western search on social media orgs." One individual responded, "Can confirm, Filipina here, who's on the Pulse and weekly discussions with Starlink community owners and enthusiasts in Philippines. We are not directly affected by most Western issues, so it's very different here in Asia. We very much keep to ourselves, except for China trying to diversify faster now in the country. Market sentiment is still strong for Tesla and Tesla Asia, as well as a desire to have another HQ here besides the one in Singapore. We're priming Philippines to be energy sustainable, etc., etc." Basically just confirming what Elon says. In the Asian markets, the ADL has very little power. So you got Billboard Chris popping up saying, "Sue them." That's right. Elon Musk says, "To be super clear, I'm pro-free speech, but against anti-Semitism of any kind." Mike Cernovich responds, "It's been proven that Democrat groups buy bots to falsely smear people via association. How many anti-Semitic accounts are real versus how many are funded and operated by the DNC to create fear and division?" Elon says, "It is impossible to tell with unverified accounts whether you're dealing with a small or large number of real people, as sophisticated bots are virtually indistinguishable from humans. With unverified accounts, there is also no way to tell if the organization complaining was somehow complicit in creating the very thing they complain about." Now that one, that's where it gets really interesting. The accusation, the argument, the ADL or other shadowy activist groups make accounts specifically to generate hate so that these organizations can use these tweets as evidence in their claims. Oh boy. We'll see how it works. Here's how the smear operates. From Politico, this story from 2020. Elon Musk, I believe it was Elon Musk who highlighted this. Actually, maybe we have, let me see if I have this tweet pulled up. I don't, I just have some responses. But I believe it was Elon who referenced this. It was, yeah, I'm pretty sure. This is an old story. It says, "Inside the ad boycott that has Facebook on the defensive." All right. Now, for many of you that are in the weeds and pay attention to politics, you know exactly what's going on. This is the game that activists play. Is really fascinating to me, the political conversation and the holistic view of it. It's yin yang, baby. Within good, there is evil. Within evil, there is good. But there is good. There is evil. There is light. There is dark. I take a look at what's going on, and it's fascinating to me that you have these people on the tribal left, and they just outright lie. It's crazy. No, don't get me wrong. That's what I'm saying. Yin yang, baby. You got people on the right who lie, who are grifters. We know that. But it really is inverted. In the freedom faction side of things, with disaffected liberals, libertarians, conservatives, etc., post-liberals, you have individuals who maybe disagree on how things should be solved, what we should do, why things are happening, but we agree on certain truths and certain facts. That is, we all saw the video of Joe Biden saying that if you don't fire the prosecutor, you're not getting $1 billion. On the left, they lie and claim it never happened. It's fascinating to me. You've got a sworn affidavit from the prosecutor outright saying he was fired because of his investigation into Burisma and that he believes Joe Biden was likely taking bribes. And they say never happened. And the people who follow them blindly believe it. That's the game they play. They want to make sure that everyone is trapped in their matrix, their false version of reality. If you come over to this side, if you step to the flames and the fire, you'll find that, say, for instance, me and Ben Shapiro will disagree on policy to a great degree, but we'll agree on certain facts. We'll agree on certain issues, and we'll try to find a logical basis for the worldviews that we have. And there are moral opinions and questions that we differ on. But for the most part, we'll agree on basic issues of fact. If you get into an argument with someone on the left, well, there's a reason why they typically don't go on certain shows. I'll say this, too, because we got Bill Maher going viral quite a bit. We have tried pretty hard to get Bill Maher out here. And I understand, you're not going to get someone who hosts their own show to travel halfway across to literally the other side of the country. I shouldn't say halfway, but literally the other side of the country to come on someone else's show. So when Bill Maher was out in D.C., we put out the offer like, hey, do you think he'll have time to come out? And they said no. And I'm like, okay, fair point. He was doing stand up at MGM National Harbor. And we were like, is there any possibility? And they said no. I said, totally get it. He flies out here. He does the show. He leaves. That's fine. So we said, hey, writer's strike. Think he'll want to come now? They said no. I said, okay. And then I said, you know what? This conversation matters. We offered to do our show from LA, to rent a studio and be out there for the week so that I could sit down with Bill Maher and have that conversation with him. They don't want to do it. Why? I'll tell you exactly what I think. First, nobody owes me their time. But I think it is fair and obvious that the left, even people like Bill Maher, cannot engage in honest conversations lest it destroy their businesses. And Bill Maher knows this better than anyone, but he is near the border of this faction. You see, I think Bill Maher's well aware of what's really going on, but he has to maintain that I'm a liberal. Yeah, I don't really care. I think politically I've always been more traditionally liberal, but the truth is the truth. So while I may be, in favor of like a progressive tax system to a certain degree, though I don't like how the tax system currently works in this country, I may be pro-choice and want some kind of universal health care or whatever. If we agree on the facts, our opinions on policy aren't nearly as important. But this is what you get. Bill Maher is scared of the likes of the ADL. Many of these organizations are. And he knows that if he steps out of line, he's in trouble. Now, over the past couple of months and past couple of years, Bill Maher has been moving away from that space, and that's a good thing. But this is what you see. This is ideological capture that the ADL and other organizations like the SPLC exploit in order to lie about people to manipulate public perception. I got a personal example for you. For those that are wondering why this is so important, let me show you Tim Pool's good old Wikipedia entry. That's right, my Wikipedia entry. Ah, yes, there are so many funny claims made in this silly Wikipedia entry, but this one I love the most. Take a look at this. A report from the Election Integrity Partnership said that Pool was a super spreader of fake news surrounding voter fraud before and after the 2020 presidential election. You know why I really, really love this one? I get so many messages from people say, Tim, why do you use NewsGuard? Why do I use, it's not currently logged in right now. So this is the funny thing about them claiming that I was a super spreader of fake news. Wow. NewsGuard certifying fake news websites? Well, that can't be. NewsGuard, for those that don't know, gives ratings to various news agencies, and it's a sliding scale. It's like, if you're above 60% or whatever, you're considered good. If you're below it, you're considered fake news or whatever. They used to give green check marks and they used to give exclamation points. They don't do that anymore. Now it's just a percentage rating system. But all of the sources that I use, Well, I should be fair. The overwhelming, near absolute majority of sources I use must have that NewsGuard certification. Because I realized a problem in how all of this was going down with organizations like I was being smeared by the Southern Poverty Law Center. They wrote this hilarious article that claimed I traveled to Iran for a Holocaust deniers conference. I've never been to Iran. It was amazing. Why? Well, they had found that there was a conspiracy theorist website based in Iran that had been deleted and archived, and they pulled it up and it claimed that at some point I had been there. And they cited that as evidence. Well, several people threatened to sue them. They had to retract that article and apologize because how insane is that? That's their standard. Well, seeing things like this, I realized something. Look, whenever a story comes out and makes a claim about something, someone sends me an article and it's like some weird website like patriotinfonews.us or something. And then I try and search for the original source to figure out who's making the claim and why. And I still do this for the most part. However, when NewsGuard first started to emerge on the scene, I said, this is the tool. This is the shield, quite literally, a little shield icon. I always check the sources on these articles, but still the left would try and claim it's fake news. Okay, now I made a very simple point. If the New York Times says that Joe Biden did a thing, well, there you go, 100% certified. I often tout their certification by NewsGuard because now it's on them. The Microsoft partnered, funded, whatever you want to call it, they have like a deal where they're like integrated in the Edge browser or something like that. Now, if you have a problem, election integrity partnership, wow, you really got to take it up with NewsGuard because all of these sources that I have are certified by them. See how that works. They still lie, though. And why did they lie? The funny thing about that story is that all of you know I have continually maintained that the election fraud stuff was nonsense. I think some of it's interesting. I think there are certainly questions. I think fraud exists, but I think Trump lost because of universal mail-in voting. There are a lot of interesting questions. I don't know if that degree of fraud actually amounts to people are saying like, how could Biden have gotten 81 million votes? And it's like, that's not even the margin you need to worry about. The margin was 42,000. It depends on the states. And now you can see they're trying to prosecute Trump. But my issue is, you get universal mail-in voting and activists on the ground knocking on doors, and you can easily get 42,000 votes to beat Trump by. I suppose the argument from the Trump supporters is that Trump actually won by millions in these states, and that's how many they pulled off. But I'm not convinced. I'm really not. I never have been. So why then would they claim I was pushing voter fraud narratives? Oh, I remember, because there was a story in North Jersey that was from like an NBC News affiliate, I think, that said they found a bundle of fraudulent votes. Oh, because there are numerous stories about this. How many stories do I have to debunk? That doesn't matter. What they're concerned about is that I was covering these stories that were getting downplayed and getting hundreds of thousands of views on them. Even if they're NewsGuard certified, they still will claim I was spreading fake news. That's the game, to lie. And then people who watch shows like Real Time with Bill Maher are left in the dark. And I do personally hold Bill Maher responsible for this. The dude does not read the news. He doesn't do it. Maybe he did in the past. Been a big fan of the guy for a long time. And this is what I want to talk to him about. Hey, Bill, you were wrong about all of these things. At what point do you sit back and say, maybe I'm just out of the game? At what point do you accept responsibility for not knowing and misinforming millions of people? Yeah, I don't think he cares. I really don't. And that's probably why he will not have a sit-down conversation with me. Look, I've had people who have been on the show, who are high profile, who have been on Bill Maher, who know him, say, we want to get you out there. We want to get on the show. And I'm like, yeah, Real Time's a different beast. Real Time might be interesting to be on, but what I want is that sit down on Club Random to talk with someone like Bill Maher. And it's not all about him, but he's just a good example right now because we recently reached out and said, hey, there's a writer's strike going on. Bill's not doing a whole lot. Is there any opportunity to have a sit down with Bill Maher? And they're just like, not interested, not interested, not interested. And I think the reality is Bill Maher and his people know you can sit down with Joe Rogan, and Joe Rogan is more of a middle of the road guy who's going to defer to his guests fairly often. Yeah, I'm not. I'm going to go, here's a source, here's a source, here's a source. Not my opinion. Tell me what you think. And that's very different. That's a lot more difficult to deal with. And that's the reality of where we're at. This is the power of these activist organizations. You've got people like Bill Maher who fear their audience doesn't care about what's true. Their audience cares about what is tribally beneficial. I'll give you an example. Over this Labor Day weekend, I called the Krasensteins evil. The Krasensteins border on abject evil. For those that aren't familiar, they're very prominent Twitter personalities of the liberal persuasion. But I don't think it's fair to call them liberal. I think it's fair to call them zealous tribalists. Here's an example. They put out a tweet about the Proud Boys that received nearly 2 decades in prison sentencing for rioting. Some of them, I think the charges you see that they've received, the charges are a bit over the top, right? They gave Joe Biggs a terrorism qualifier because he knocked down a barricade. Dude, if you riot, okay, at the Capitol, that's much more serious than rioting at a liquor store or in a city. You've got federal charges versus local charges. But hold on there a minute. If you burn down a police station, that's substantially more serious than knocking down a temporary barricade. Joe Biggs' punishment should probably have been time served, 2.5 years in jail. 2 years for knocking down a barricade. And you can argue, hey man, the guy then went into the Capitol and he was at the front line where people were fighting with cops. All right, now you've got some serious questions about what is the appropriate term for these individuals. Yeah, I think, look, if you rioted at the Capitol, you go to jail. Even Donald Trump agrees. But 17 years plus the 2.5 already served? 20 years in prison? Are you nuts? And the best the Krasensteins could muster was perhaps 8 to 12 would have been more sufficient. 8 to 12 years, dude? Are you a fifth or a sixth of someone's life for this? Dude, the guy who burned down the police station, 4 years, I'm like, maybe it's a little light, but I don't know. 4 years of someone's life for maybe there's attempted murder. Yeah, maybe that one gets cranked up a little bit. There are murderers who have gotten less time than Joe Biggs. Then you got a dude who pepper sprayed cops. Very bad. I think that warrants a couple years. Pepper spraying cops in a riot where you're trying to storm into the Capitol. Ooh, that's pretty bad. Hey, time served, 2.5 years. Then you got a guy who broke a window. And I'm like, very bad. At our Capitol, dude, I take personal offense. I do. To the people smashing out windows at the Capitol. Because I stand with those other Americans. You can see them on camera. And they're saying, stop. Like, it is shocking and offensive that people were rioting, trying to break into the Capitol. It's the stupidest thing ever. It's not the 1600s. You don't win political power by standing in a building anymore. All right. But the idea that these guys go to prison. Now, here's why I bring up the Krasensteins. Because their whole perspective on this is it's justified, it's warranted. These are the people that will say, anything that satisfies my tribal view, my tribal way of thinking is just. That's the banality of evil. To march behind a banner of tribalism and say, whatever we do is just. Maybe a little excessive, but it's just. No, it isn't. Look, man. Antifa dude throws a water bottle at the cops. What do they get? A couple months, slap on the wrist, probation or something? Fine. Guy throws a brick through a window, criminal charges. You trespass on a property. You know what the activists get for trespassing? They get nothing. Nothing. You get arrested, then you get court supervision. When activists on the left go and occupy a space, they'll get arrested. The court will then say disorderly conduct, trespassing. The sentence, court supervision, don't come back. Take a look at what happened when they marched on Brooklyn Bridge, Occupy Wall Street. Yeah, most of them got court supervision. Don't come back, don't do it again, and this goes away. Then take a look at the people who had no idea what was going on the opposite side of the Capitol building and walked in confused and then left. Because I've met some of these people. 16 months, 2 years sentence. That's what they're going for. Shockingly insane. And you get the likes of the Krasensteins cheering for this. This is the evil that we face. This is my opposition to the tribal left. There is no justice. There is no meritocracy. There is simply join the collective or else. Defend what we say or else, whether just or not, whether backed by logic or not. This is where we are. And it's the likes of the ADL that are weapons for this organization and the Southern Poverty Law Center. They lie about people, they cheat, and they steal for political power. And you know what? Whatever our faction is, freedom faction I like to call it, we tend not to do that. And that is a disadvantage. But so long as we keep waking people up to the truth and challenging the system, we are winning. And so I'll wrap it up again by saying this. Good on Elon Musk. More power to you. Godspeed, good sir. And never forget, Bud Light, target. When those companies act out, do something bad, we push back and we say, enough of this. Rich Men North of Richmond, Sound of Freedom. We say, this is what we support and what we like. And so long as that's the game we play, we've won. I watched a video of the feds arresting a guy over being at the Capitol on January 6th. And I'm like, be careful. They want you to act out. They need you to. They need it January 6th. Do not give it to them. With a smile on your face, be like Jesus and turn the other cheek and know that we are winning the culture war. We are. And right now, the data suggests Donald Trump is going to win in 2024. Doesn't mean he actually does. Who knows what's going to happen? But right now, they are in desperate need of some kind of right-wing acting out. So much so that they'll likely fake it. Democrats, I'm saying specifically, bots or otherwise. But you know what? I think Elon wins this one. I don't think they can keep up this narrative anymore. And I think we're going to win. So long as we are vigilant, so long as we remain peaceful, so long as we focus on the policy and the procedure, we can win. And never forget, we are winning. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.